It's a clash of titans at Norway Blitz. Ding Liren, one of the world's beast, takes on the legendary Viswanathan Anand in a game that promises fireworks. Ding opens with a quiet, ready setup, fianchettoing his bishop, and Anand responds in classical style. Both sides develop their knights and pawns, creating a solid, symmetrical position as they prepare to fight for the center. And here's the first small slip from Ding. He plays his pawn to d3, a passive move that lets black off the hook. The critical idea was to immediately challenge the center with pawn to d4 to maintain the pressure. Anand doesn't hesitate. He strikes in the center with pawn to e5 and then rams his pawn all the way to d4, grabbing a huge space advantage. Ding develops on the queen side, but black is already looking very comfortable. The pieces start to dance. A knight jumps to g5, Anand's bishop pins it from g4, and after a little pawn push, the bishop simply retreats to c8, its job done. The tension breaks in the center. Ding pushes with f4, and after a flurry of trades and pawn pushes from both sides, the pawn structure becomes completely locked. This is now a deep strategic grind. Now we enter a phase of quiet maneuvering. Both players improve their pieces, tucking their knights onto better squares. The kings also take a step to the side, getting out of any potential lines of fire. It's the calm before the storm. The heavy artillery comes out to play. The queens shift, and then the rooks pile up on the g-file and e-file, staring each other down. Both sides are loading their guns, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. A slight inaccuracy from Anand. His knight drops back to d8, which is a bit passive. A better defensive idea was to play pawn to g6, preparing to challenge white's control of the light squares. Ding had a chance to seize a real advantage here, but he misses the critical moment. Instead of capitalizing on black's passive play, the knight could leap to g5, putting immense pressure on black's kingside. After the bishop takes the knight on g5, white would trade bishops on d5. The queen recaptures and the pawn takes on g5, opening the h-file for a crushing attack. But Ding missed that. Instead, he pushes his pawn to e6, and just like that, the advantage is gone. Anand is right back in the game, and Anand is ruthless. His bishop snaps off the pawn on e6, the only move to punish Ding's mistake and seize the initiative. A fantastic, precise response. Wow! Out of nowhere, Ding unleashes a brilliant sacrifice. The knight leaps to e5, a stunning move to blow the position wide open and create absolute chaos. Anand has no choice. His knight takes the knight on e5, accepting the challenge, and Ding's other knight immediately recaptures on e5, keeping the pressure at maximum. What an incredible sequence! Anand calmly repositions his pieces and snags the loose pawn on a4. But Ding isn't interested in pawns. He launches a ferocious kingside attack, pushing his h-pawn up the board. Anand makes a practical choice here. His bishop takes the knight on e5, but this is a slight inaccuracy. The engine screamed for queen takes pawn on c2, a move that would have created even more problems for white to solve. Ding immediately recaptures on e5 with the rook, and his attack is still very much alive. And another slip from Anand. He is under immense pressure and misses the best defense. Instead of dealing with the threats, the queen could have snatched the pawn on c2, creating powerful counterplay. After white pushes the h-pawn and black recaptures, the queen could retreat to e1. And after a rook trade on g1, black's position would be completely fine. But in the game, Anand plays his rook to c8, and this allows Ding's kingside attack to become truly terrifying. Ding smells blood. The h-pawn marches to h6, and his rook crashes through on c5, grabbing a pawn and tightening the screws. And that's a third inaccuracy from the former world champion. Under this relentless pressure, he's starting to crack. A much tougher defense was available. The rook could have gone to f7, preparing to defend the kingside, even after queen to h4, and queen to d7, and white could try bishop to b4, but after knight to c6, black would still be hanging on. Back in the actual game, the rook moves to d7, and now Ding has a nearly winning attack. And here comes the final wave. Ding's queen swings over to h4, and the pawn crashes through on g7 with a devastating check. And is forced to recapture, but even here there's a venomous detail. He recaptures with the wrong rook. A subtle but critical error. The correct way was to take with the other rook from d7. Then, after queen to f6, bishop to f7 would defend everything. Even if white traded on c6, and black recaptured, the position would still be defensible. But in the game, Anand takes on g7 with his g-rook, and now white should have a clear path to victory. Unbelievable. Just when the win was in his grasp, Ding makes a huge mistake. He trades rooks on g7, releasing all the pressure. The winning move was queen to f6, keeping the attack alive and sealing the deal. And Anand is razor sharp. He correctly recaptures on g7 with his rook, the only move to stabilize the position. The game has swung from lost to equal in a single move, and now Ding follows up with another inaccuracy. His queen moves to f6, but this allows Anand to take over. The better plan was to create queenside counterplay with pawn to b4. Anand's queen immediately invades, landing on a1. This forces Ding's bishop to drop back to g2 to defend. The tables have completely turned. And now, a touch of genius from Vichy, the queen slides to d1, a brilliant move that looks like a sacrifice but is actually the start of a winning attack, posing immense problems for white. And that's the final blunder. Ding takes the bishop on e6, but this is a fatal mistake. His only chance to survive was to take the pawn on f5 with his rook, leading to a complex but holdable position. Anand is absolutely clinical. His queen snaps off the bishop on d2, and this is simply game over. It's a crushing blow that wins on the spot. White tries to defend with queen to d5, but it's not enough to stop the bleeding. Anand continues with perfect precision. His queen takes the pawn on f4 with check. The attack is relentless. The white king flees to h1, but there is no escape. Anand calmly swings his rook over to e7, preparing the final decisive blow. Ding makes his last move. Queen takes the pawn on f5, but this is a final blunder that allows a forced checkmate, and Anand delivers the killer shot. His rook lands on e1 with check, beginning a beautiful and unstoppable mating sequence. Seeing the inevitable checkmate on the board, Liren resigns. A spectacular seesaw battle ends with a hard-fought victory for the legendary Viswanathan Anand.